Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the latest updates and responses from Candice Cooley in relation to Brenner's preliminary hearing and the court trials ahead. Some of the information may shock you, and this is from the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page. I'm going to be reading through it all today, analysing if necessary, and maybe questioning it too. It is quite interesting what Candice Cooley has said and what will be revealed in the future. All kinds of possibilities may be. For those that are currently here in this live premiere, welcome too. Be sure to share your thoughts and opinions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. And for those that do watch later, leave your comments down below. Also below in the comment section, there will be a pinned comment for you to check the other links out if you wish to. If you're in a situation where you want to support this channel, but you want to do it in an anonymous way, there is a link there you'll be able to see, okay? So we don't need to look at any comments today from previous videos. If you didn't quite catch last night's, equally as important, a new channel coming out and Candice Cooley being involved with it. Top right corner of the screen, the I symbol, you click on that and you'll be redirected to the Dylan Rounds playlist and the video from last night. I don't think enough people saw it, and there was only a small amount of people in the chat supposedly at the time. I was watching some show, doing other stuff, as I clearly said at the end of the video. But make sure to catch up on it if you didn't quite watch it after watching this. Is there anything else to include in today's discussion? Well, we'll see how things go, but I think we need to get straight into the latest updates and interesting information. Let's head on over to the Facebook page. If I just scroll on down, we'll be able to see it 15 hours ago by Frankie. And it was actually an initial question post in which Candice Cooley responded to. I do think these are probably the most ideal, practical type of post. It's direct, it's clear, and it's done in terms of media with a background. Asking, Candice Cooley, have you tried to talk to the folks at Dateline NBC? So the question itself was very specific, but what Candice Cooley responded back with was in greater depth. And I think there was some side questions too, and some additional information which we'll get into now. So just down here, in the correct order, Barbara says, if there's no evidence and no suspects, what is the court date for? Usually it would go to a news station or TV station just to get the word out. Sorry, not sure if I missed something along the way. Response-wise, Jazz says, there is evidence and there is a suspect that has been charged, James Brenner. Take a look at our featured to find out the facts surrounding Dylan's disappearance. Now, as for the evidence, I don't think I'd be able to, run it off the list in my mind on the spot. But I guess it would be Dylan's boots with Brenner's DNA fingerprints on them, the time-lapse footage of Brenner itself, linking in with the phone ping, the last one and after, 7:27, around that time. Brenner's shirt within that footage later retrieved, which had some of DNA upon it, as well as blood. Anything else? I said I can't think on the spot, but these people seem to think confident. And to be honest, when we did look at the news article in the past, or some kind of court document, or an actual response from the police, was it Cade Palmer? Something to do with there is strong enough evidence, a sufficient amount to put the charges onto Brenner. Scrolling down, Barbara says, oh wow, gosh, sorry, news to the whole story. Just followed a couple of months ago, just praying and hoping everything goes well. Where to look? In the featured section on top of this group. Okay. Candice Cooley then responds 2 hours ago saying, justice does need to be served, but there is no such thing as closure when you lose a kid. So, the closure is knowing what happened to the person at the end of the day. That's a form of closure. The other form of closure, or coinciding with it, would be being able to return back the son or the daughter or a loved one back home or wherever, closer to the family, even if the person passed away. Different forms of closure, but Candice Cooley, I guess, is being realistic. You've lost someone, that's it. But I'm sure there'll still be a little bit of closure within and that hope for it down the line. But when they do manage to find Dylan and bring him home, that'll bring maybe just a tiny bit of comfort or just a tiny bit of a positive feeling, so then they can move forwards in the right direction. Candice Cooley also adds on saying they have done 2 online articles. So Dateline, is it NBC? Dateline NBC. I don't know if I've looked at them myself in the past, maybe. But they've done 2 articles about Dylan's case. Candice Cooley says, once we finish with the court proceedings, they will do a full episode. It is hard to proceed with a full episode when we are moving forwards in the court system. We want that to be complete before we do. So it seems like Candice Cooley also wants some kind of, like a documentary, a coverage by NBC. How long will it be? Not quite sure. I mean, Candice Cooley here saying we want the court proceedings to occur first, and then after we can push on with the news coverage and video coverage, however they do it. But what about when you had the Dylan Rounds documentary, Paramount Plus? I mean, some people were saying that was kind of rushed even before Dylan Rounds was actually brought home and found. But it seems like that was being pushed ahead. It should have been delayed and maybe released once the case was solved, but it was done earlier. Some people were suspicious of that. But I guess in defense of it, at the end of the day, part 1 was released earlier, supposedly. Part 2 came much later. Part 1 was more retelling the stories of the first week or so, and then part 2 was all the stuff in between leading up to March 3rd, 2023. So maybe some things can be done if the other stuff that's being covered has been completed. Do it in stages and parts, but Dateline NBC, if it's one whole featured video or coverage, then it might have to be done right at the end. Would it help? What would be the purpose of coverage? To spread awareness of what can happen and what can go wrong to help people in the future? Anyway, good to hear. You're welcome. Michael or Michelle, I never know how you spell it, Michael. Netflix documentary, like Making a Murderer. See, this is what I mean. When it goes on to the degenerative, millennial-like, sheepish bandwagon trend of Netflix. Oh yeah, let's sit down and watch Netflix and pay a monthly subscription and be all trendy with my coffee from Starbucks and act really quirky about my intellect and my interest in serial killers whilst I've got all posters on my wall in my bedroom. My goodness, Teddy Bundy. Yeah, those type of people. It just seems very money driven when it comes to the Netflix side, when it comes to documentaries. I mean, money can be made anywhere and stuff, but when it comes to the Netflix area, a paywall, a service, besides normal TV, right? I know nothing is free in that sense, but you get what I'm saying when it becomes very specific to a certain, do you call it a streaming platform? But a documentary, Making a Murderer, wouldn't that be glorifying Brenner? You know, if you want Brenner to suffer, you shouldn't give him the time of day, especially once justice has been served, right? The concept of remembering Dylan Rounds and how the case was handled and treated, helping people in the future, others that may go through the same, situation of a person going missing, that makes sense. Doing it in the name of Dylan, doing it for Dylan, doing it for others and helping them, but not giving Brenner, the murderer or a murderer, the time of day in a documentary format. It would seem like it's glorifying murder. That's my opinion. And I mean, if Brenner had a long-term history of murdering people, like a serial killer, then okay, maybe a separate documentary or video could be made on that to try and understand the mind of the individual, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. Candice Cooley does respond, though, to Michael, saying, right now, our focus is on getting justice for Dylan. The case is heading in the right direction. There are so many others whose cases are not. We want to help bring them more awareness whilst we wait for Dylan's case to go through the court system. Now, okay, patience. Wait till the court case of Brenner and to get on with that. What do you do in the meantime? Help others out. Well, that makes sense. I can imagine some people in the community will be saying, well, whilst you're waiting, why not look for your son? Isn't that the most common of sense of things to do? But take in mind, the way the weather is, wintertime approaching, coldness, dogs not being able to be used because of the scent, decreasing the chances of success. If the ground gets harder, heavy snowfall, vision slightly impaired, right? Factors like that, what occurred last year, will probably happen again. And during those periods, you can't search, can you? Well, some try, but maybe it's not as practical. So in the meantime of moments like that, I guess that's what Candice Cooley is referring to, maybe. I mean, if anyone's near to Lucin, Montello, feel free to share your experiences of how the weather is right now, heavy snowfall, any flooding, stuff like that. Feel free to share your encounters. But is there anything else to acknowledge here? The fact that Candice Cooley says the case is heading in the right direction sounds a positive. And then she says there are many others whose cases aren't going anywhere. Take that into perspective when we continue reading, because there's been a few, people that try and be very realistic or expect the worst, for the court case of Brenner, Dylan Round situation to drag on for 4+ years. Bob Farrell's, I think, touched upon it, and even Smooth Fishing, right? Because Smooth Fishing has experienced themselves, okay? Let's just see how it compares to the additional information here. Tina says, the court proceedings of Brenner will drag out another year to 4 years as they are going. He's behind bars, and that's the biggest, most important thing here. He's not loose anymore. After court, death penalty for idiot. Here we go. Make sure you're listening. Everybody watching right now, make sure you're listening. So, Candice Cooley responds saying, we have a preliminary trial set, and it will not drag out after that. It has definitely been slower than it needed to be with all the hearings about appointing an attorney, but we have momentum now. The death penalty is not on the table, which we made public last spring, and there are many reasons as to why. This is something that Missing in America and Dylan's Legacy wants to help educate people on. Like I have stated many times, as a general public, we have a very skewed view on how things should go in these type of cases. It is difficult to hear over and over, he should get the death penalty. We have absolutely no control over this, but we are satisfied with the reason why, and we'll share it in the future when we can. So, 2 interesting points here, one of which to do with the trial, the court proceedings of Brenner. There seems to be a strong level of confidence there that it will not drag out and it won't go on for years, as what Candice Cooley says here, from the knowledge she has gained wherever, okay? I said, I'm just sharing this with you. It's interesting, right? And then the second part about, we've previously heard that the death penalty was taken off the table. That's just the case. And I think one of the reasons to why the death penalty was taken off the table is because the situation of Brenner was treated as a snap moment, that Brenner snapped. It wasn't pre-planned, it wasn't premeditated. If it was premeditated and planned out beforehand, then that would be the chance that Brenner would receive the death penalty. But as Candice Cooley words here, there are many more reasons as to why it played out that way. So what other reasons are they? But she says she's satisfied with the reasons and they will be revealed in the future. So I want to know your thoughts on that, right? Preliminary. I think it's 15th, 16th of May 2024. Quite some time away, right? But Candice Cooley says, once the preliminary has been set, it will not drag out after that. And when she says after that, does that mean, when it gets into the proper trial of Brenner and the Dylan Rounds case, maybe? So she does acknowledge it's been slower. Hearings, as we've seen before. But she also says, we now have the momentum. So that sounds positive, right? So Missing in America, which we covered. Missing in America, I think, is the name of that YouTube channel I mentioned last night. I said be sure to catch up on that video. Top right corner of the screen, I symbol. Click on that and you'll be redirected over there. And Dylan's Legacy. So Dylan's Legacy teaming up with Missing in America to spread awareness of missing person cases, to help other families out, and also to remember Dylan's name on, educate people, general public, skewed view on things. I guess that could be the case. I mean, I said a range of people with time have expected that the trial of Brenner would last for years upon years, but Candice Cooley here is saying it will not drag out, that they do have momentum, that they are better off than other people out there. That's how it comes across this, these posts made. And the bit about we have no control, right, but we are satisfied with the reason behind the death penalty being taken off Brenner. Why would she be satisfied with that? Saying how in the future, when we can, we will share and explain that. So it must be somewhat important to be in a situation now where you can't talk about it. Obviously, legal reasons as well, and because of the courts, the trials ahead, you're not allowed to reveal stuff right now. But is it because there's some kind of deal made in the background that, okay, death penalty has been taken off the table, but in replacement of it, there will be, another form of punishment? Or the sentencing that changes? Some kind of deal made in between? Well, whatever it is, Candice Cooley is satisfied with. So, I don't know, some people may say Candice Cooley is hard to please. But if this has satisfied her, I wonder what it could be. Yeah? Scroll on down. Linda says, good to hear. We abolished the death penalty here in Canada years ago for a few reasons. I like to think the guilty will pay their price serving time. I mean, that's what a couple of us have agreed with over the course of the case. I mean, I thought about it myself, right? And I said the same thing, that when it comes to Brenner, you give him the death penalty, it's the easy way out for him, in a way. As for the family, friends, knowing that he's no longer here on this earth could serve as a form of comfort and a form of justice, that the murderer took out the son, so the murderer should die the same way, or so. Okay, but does Brenner truly suffer if it's over and done with quick? No. Whereas if you're locked up, and then for the rest of your life, maybe they'll suffer more. And if you want a person to suffer, well, that's the way to go. But we also mentioned that Brenner shouldn't be kept in solitary confinement or by himself because he supposedly likes that, hence why he was living in Luton, Utah, with a very, 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 very low population. If he was put in the general population of other prisoners, then I can imagine that would torture him, right? That's what we were talking about previously, if you remember. Kelly says, I hadn't heard about the preliminary. So much info on so many cases. When is the date? Obviously, now it can change back and forth. However, this is encouraging. Well, this person says it can change back and forth, but Candice Cooley was saying it's all set in place. Interesting. Frankie says, thank you for your reply. I can't imagine your daily struggles. Candice Cooley says the preliminary will not change, and it's set for May 15th for 3 days. That's what Candice Cooley said in previous post. 3 days preliminary. 15th of May, it starts 2024. And there's no chance that it will change. Now, if like Candice Cooley was mentioning how we have no control over anything or not much in a situation, how can they be 100% confident that it will not change then, that they have momentum? The only thing I could think of would be she's been told that by the authority. I mean, the only thing to acknowledge is, and it's just to maintain the balance, that Candice Cooley previously did say that there will not be any more continuances. And guess what? There was another continuance, another delay of one of the previous hearings. And then the final continuance, which I guess it turned out to be the November 13th? And it wouldn't be delayed after that. Okay, it turned out true. But the hearing before November 13th, Candice Cooley said that would be the last continuance. Though she was wrong. So could she be wrong here? I don't know. It's just something to acknowledge, right? Shelley says, praying for Dylan, always. I followed Dylan's story from day one. I went through the stupid online private investigator Jim Terry stuff now. Right, I planted sunflowers this year and will continue to do that. Okay. Sanchez says, I think of Dylan quite often and wish all my heart he could be found and laid to rest properly. Closure is so important and justice needs to be served. Hope next year will bring all this to fruition. Thoughts and prayers. Right. Here we go, a few more responses. Colleen, I hope perhaps they could track that monster's phone, James Brenner's, and that could narrow the search area. Candice Cooley says, this has all been covered. Has it? Now, if there's anyone watching right now that knows, feel free to add on in the comment section down below. The only thing I've ever heard of was Dylan Round's phone pings, whether they be specific or rough estimates, as some people like to claim, okay, with the radius situation. But it's always been about Dylan Round's phone pings, the start and end point, just like how Mob Chris did on his channel when he was doing videos covering it. When it comes to James Brenner's phone, what was found on it, the phone pings of where he was at a specific time on the day, I've never heard much about it. I only heard it in the early days, said by Candice Cooley, claiming that because of Brenner's old flip phone, that within a 7-day period, the data expires on it. So when the police got round to checking his phone, it was too late to find the data, to find the phone pings of his activity. So there wasn't much retrieved there. Is that true? If anyone knows anything different about Brenner's phone, what was found on it, his phone pings, let me know down below, okay? And if you do have information and you do have knowledge or you remember something, try and provide a source, the provenance of where it came from, where you heard it or where you saw it, okay? That'll be appreciated. Jack Clyn, Candice, what is happening with Dylan? I haven't heard nothing for months. We just check these comments out. Candice Cooley says, everything is in the featured tab on the top of the page. There was a hearing November 13th, true, and all the information is on this page. Tina saying, nothing new till she posted it, and they're searching such massive area and investigation on anything they find and test it out for DNA, etc. And it is a long process for them, and it's very slow, but if Candice Cooley says it's in the right direction now, Candice can't disclose everything she knows, because she will never get justice. But Candice said now, right direction, giving her hope. That's what matters to me. If they feel it's been done right now, this time, even though it's taken a lot longer than we expected, but I have faith in Candice Cooley's words. It's her son and she knows more than we do, but not every single detail is necessary for the public to get involved with. With Candice post something new, anyway, she gets updates, she posts it on here. Okay. Anything else there? No, that seems to be it. Okay. But some interesting points mentioned. So I want to know your thoughts. Make sure to leave comments down below on what you think about hearing that news and from what Candice Cooley directly said about the confidence of the preliminary happening and no delays, that the trial, the court proceedings of Brenner from then on after the preliminary will happen, is in the right direction, that they do have momentum now that it's not going to drag out for 4+ years or longer, that it seems quite positive, and that although the death penalty being taken off, there's a good enough reason for it which satisfies Candice Cooley, which could make you think maybe there's more to it, and that we'll know down the line, and that Dateline NBC will be doing full-on coverage of the Dylan Rounds case after the court proceedings, trial, etc. So it looks like when it does get around the time of May 15th, 2024, it could get a little bit busy as for coverage of stuff. Depends how much is, I guess, publicly documented. I'm sure Glorindellen will definitely get stuck in around the time if she's able to. Maybe Glorindellen's watching right now. If you are, let me know your thoughts down below. I just also want to acknowledge one additional thing. I don't expect everyone to be too positive about this news, because I can imagine some will say, well, it's coming from what Candice Cooley says once again, and we can't trust her. That's what some people will say. And others will just be skeptical and come out with the response. We'll see how things play out. But once again, I'm just sharing with you the latest news in the case. And as I've always said, any news updates, they always come first before anything else, right? And as for tomorrow, because there's some background pushing, try and do some Kenny Veach video. Completely different case, but I'm sure you'll be interested in that as well. Still got a few things to handle and sort out, but I'll eventually get there. Hopefully most people enjoyed this video, found it of interest. Be sure to like and share it. Let other people know about this video and what's been going around, so you know and others what to expect for the future of 2024 in the name of the Dylan Rounds case. And once again, if you want to hear more about the Dylan Rounds legacy updates, the video from last night will explain some of it. Okay? So that's it for now. I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Good night.